The Big Ten's making a lot of cash. What's the deal with that? More than the SEC? How does that happen?
Yes, per a report by Daniel Libet at Sportico, the Big Ten generated $880 million in revenue in fiscal year 2023, according to tax returns they obtained earlier by request. That overtakes the SEC as the highest earning conference, which is a big standout. As a matter of fact, the SEC was down at 853. So there's a $27 million difference. This is for the 2022-2023 season. Now, this is something I have been talking about for a while. This includes,
I'm going to give you some credit because I've disagreed with you on your take a lot.
Yes, this is just the 14 teams in the conference before Texas and Oklahoma were joining, or before USC and UCLA were joining the Big Ten. Okay, this is also, and this is a big thing now, guys. I want to point this out. This is before the media rights deals came out. So the Big Ten as a conference generated $27 million more in profit than the SEC. And both leagues are about to enter media rights deals that is only going to further favor the Big Ten, because the Big Ten has a $1 billion a year return on their TV rights deals compared to $300 million for the SEC. Now, yes, there's expenses and things like that, but the truth of the matter is, now, yeah, the Big Ten does have 2 more teams to disperse the revenue out next year, 18 to 16 for the SEC. But if you do the math real quick, and I'm going to do the math. I can't do the math in my head, so someone do it for me. Do 880 divided by 14 versus 853 divided by 14. And all I'm saying is the new difference with this media rights deal, even with 18 teams, the Big Ten will have more to give out per team, significantly so than the SEC. And guys, I'm telling you, that is a huge worry, because this is the great equalizer in college football. And here's why it's the equalizer. The SEC.
What is the great equalizer?
This money, this revenue. Okay, and I will explain why. The SEC has had the ingrained advantage for about 30 years now with recruiting, because the best players just come from the South. And honestly, they did before that. The best players come from Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Louisiana. Heck, per capita, Mississippi, too, is really good. And so that's where the best players have always come through. Now Texas, too, and South Carolina. The Deep South. Big Ten has had a couple of states, Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania. That's it. That's produced NFL talent, right? Those are the only states in the Big Ten that produce legit NFL talent. Even Illinois doesn't, despite the fact that Chicago's there, which has always kind of confused me. But that's a different story. So the Big Ten has had 3 states. They've had to try to out-recruit the SEC, and they can't because the SEC's there. The great equalizer becomes budgets to make an impact in recruiting, but then also NIL money. And because the Big Ten is going to start bringing in so much more revenue per team, they will not need to solicit NIL funds from their boosters as much as the SEC will. At which point the Big Ten will have more NIL money to out-recruit the SEC and SEC territory.
Okay, I need you to hold on for a second, because this money is going to the schools. The money that goes to NIL from now comes from boosters. Now, if they flip it and the schools can pay them directly, that's different. But I still think the boosters, in terms of NIL, which would be the only concern of them making more money, I still think the boosters would fork over as much cash as any Big Ten team, don't you?
I think but that's the point, though. The Big Ten boosters, the boosters have to fork over some cash. The NIL money you get, I mean, not the NIL money, the direct revenue you get, ticket sales, TV, whatever you want to name it, the money you bring in, however much that is, that takes away from the money you need in donations from boosters to do things. That extra money that the boosters don't have to pay in donations for the school, they can use to go outright buy players. So let's call it what it is. These big schools in the Big Ten, even if their recruiting bases aren't as strong, their booster bases are as strong as the SEC. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it's very fair to say.
Yes. So their booster base is as strong, and their booster base now has more money to spend on NIL because the revenue from the Big Ten is going to supplement donations they would have had to make. Now, you're seeing this in a lot of ways. You're seeing the Big Ten really step up their game in trying to get coaches. 10 years ago, Dave, Luke Fickell, after what he did at Cincinnati when he went undefeated and took them to the college football playoff, 10 years ago, Luke Fickell's at an SEC school. There's no doubt. Cincinnati, going from Cincinnati, heck, Tennessee might hire him. They hired Butch Jones. Luke Fickell's down south somewhere. He is now at Wisconsin. Matt Rule, who had the most cutting-edge offense at Baylor, didn't work out in the NFL, but he's at Nebraska now. Y'all think I'm crazy. I still think Matt Rule is going to work out. The Big Ten is reaching a level where they can afford to get coaches and buy players with NIL talent. And another example of that is, look at Ohio State. They just brought on Chip Kelly as an assistant, and they opened the NIL checkbook. Guys, this is not changing anytime soon. I'm telling you guys, there is...
Are you telling me that you think within 5 or 10 years, the Big Ten will be the dominant conference in college football? As I just get my email for SEC Media Days credentials. Ironic, huh?
Sorry about that. What'd you say?
As I just got my email for SEC Media credentials.
Oh my gosh, that's really, really funny. And then we lost our connection.
Do you think
the SEC has an agenda to punish us?
Do you think the Big Ten will be better than the SEC in 5 and or 10 years?
I think in 10 years, you will see a significant gap between the Big Ten and the SEC. Overall, the Big Ten will be deeper with more powerhouse teams. Yes, I do.
Okay. I disagree with that, because if it gets to that point where Greg Sankey has made a mistake on the contract, I think he's got time to fix it. And I think he'll be able to fix it. How long does the SEC television contract run till?
That's the other problem. The SEC television contract is 10 years. The Big Ten's going to renegotiate in 7.
Yeah,
and they already have twice the deal the SEC has. I mean, this is why.
But can you renegotiate those halfway through? Surely.
Why would ESPN renegotiate it? ESPN has a very bad business model right now that's going to kill the company. This SEC contract is their lifeline. They got to steal with the SEC contract because the SEC is going to bring in way more money, particularly with adding Texas and Oklahoma. This is going to literally save the network.
Yeah.
So ESPN has no incentive to renegotiate.
Yeah, I'm going to go with no offense, Caleb, but what Smoky Mountain Red said.
That's crazy.
I just don't see that happening. I don't see the Big Ten being bigger than the SEC, partly because what Travis said, the Big Ten doesn't have the same level of fan support or tradition. So
says who? Who says that? I mean, guys, Nebraska sold out their football stadium for a volleyball game last year.
Ouch. Well, that's pretty good. I'll give them that. Still, I'm going to take the SEC in the next 5 to 10 years over the Big Ten. We shall see, but the TV deal is something we shall ask Greg Sankey about at SEC Media Days in Dallas in about 7 weeks. We're almost there.